Hello and welcome, I'm Ruby Barlow and you are watching The World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of our top headlines from this hour. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump have been rushed out of the White House press correspondents' dinner after shots were fired. President Trump is unharmed. The suspect fired a shotgun at a Secret Service agent, now in hospital. The suspect has been identified as Cole Thomas Allen, a California resident, 31 years old. He was armed with a shotgun, a handgun and multiple knives and is now in police custody being assessed in hospital. The shooting suspect accused of storming the Washington gala attended Saturday by President Donald Trump will be arraigned in the US Capitol on Monday as investigations continue. Charges are expected to be laid. Israel says it will attack Hezbollah forcefully after 4 are killed in strikes in southern Lebanon. The ceasefire in the region was recently extended by President Trump 3 more weeks. US President Donald Trump cancelled his envoy's trip to Pakistan for peace talks with Iran on Saturday, adding that the war would not immediately resume, and that Iran can call us if they get a hold of President and his envoys. Japan has deployed 1,400 firefighters and 100 self-defense force personnel to battle mountain blazes in the northern part of the country, with the fires now burning for the 5th straight day. The area consumed by the fires has reached more than 1,300 hectares as of early Sunday morning. 6 passengers were injured after a Swiss International Airlines flight from Delhi to Zurich aborted takeoff due to engine failure at Indira Gandhi International Airport. The incident occurred when one of its engines caught fire during the takeoff roll, leading to an emergency evacuation. A police source says that at least 13 people were killed and 17 wounded in an explosives attack in Western Colombia on Saturday, while violence authorities have blamed on dissidents of the FARC guerrilla group. Global condemnation is pouring in after the shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner in Washington, D.C. World leaders have strongly denounced the incident, calling it an attack on democracy and political stability. From India to Europe and West Asia, leaders have expressed relief that US President Donald Trump and other officials were safe. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, along with leaders from Canada, Australia and Mexico, stressed that violence has no place in democratic societies. Meanwhile, several countries have praised the swift response of US security agencies, which prevented further casualties and quickly neutralized the attacker. The incident has also reignited global concerns over political violence, with calls for stronger security and restraint in a polarized global climate. We're now joined by Alison Matla, who's a former AP Bureau Chief, and she's joining us live from Bucharest. Alison, thanks very much and welcome back on the broadcast today. Alison, what does it tell us about the state of domestic politics inside the United States right now if there's been yet another attack on an event that Trump has been attending? It hasn't been confirmed yet whether he was targeting Trump as a target. It has been confirmed that he was targeting Trump officials. But what does it tell us about discontent inside the country right now, and how do you think it could affect these upcoming midterms in November?
Well, I think it's another sign of extremely polarized climate because of some of Donald Trump's policies, but also because of the discourse on social media, and also in the US, the access to weapons, which, you know, I live in Europe and it's very hard to get, you know, a rifle, an assault rifle, a gun, a pistol. But there it's very easy. But it shows you that we have. I mean, this is he survived an assassination attempt before he was elected president, and then this shooter managed to get in, and we had the killing, I think it was last year, of Kirk, and it shows a new level of violence, and extreme polarization. And okay, the US, the security officials did extremely well to disable the person, not kill him. That in the sense that is good because he can be questioned, put into custody, put on trial, which is always more satisfying than him having to be killed, unless obviously he was immediately threatening someone's life. So they were obviously very efficient in the way they dealt with it. But, the fact that something like the White House dinner, where everybody's in their bow ties, dressed up, having a political discourse, people from different sides of the political spectrum, and then a gunman sort of bursts in, and not just with one gun. From the reports we're hearing, he had like several. It is pretty horrific, and it does show a new level of violence that we are becoming accustomed to. Before, I mean, obviously there was an attempt on the life of a former US President, Ronald Reagan, but these attempts are very rare, but they are becoming more common as the discourse becomes, political discourse between different sides is more polarized. I hate to say it, more hateful, more vengeful, more, if you like, triggering. And this is just part of, this is another aspect of the times we live in, the polarization we live in, that people are resorting to violence as a means of political expression, which, as all the leaders around the world, I'm not a political leader, have condemned it, and quite rightly so. But it's not a healthy development in any society. I mean, what are we returning to, the Wild West?
Alison, what do you think? What do you think it tells us about the symbolism of this event as well? Like you mentioned, of course, that everyone was there in ball gowns, but this event was also for the White House Correspondents' Gala as well. So there was a lot of journalists there. There was a lot of high-ranking officials. Do you think that perhaps he was looking to maximise publicity in this respect, or was it just an event where President Trump was attending and therefore an available target to the shooter?
For what we know so far, it was a lone actor. We don't know very much about his motives, but generally these attacks are prepared quite carefully in advance. And I would imagine he was trying to get a global stage and create a maximum disruption. And particularly because you assume if it's a White House Correspondents' dinner, there'll be people from all political stripes, from the right, the left, the independent, etc., as well as, you said, all these, we have ministers. I saw the Defense Secretary was there, Donald Trump, his wife Melania was there, and others were there as well. But I think the idea is this person who tried to stage, who did burst in and tried to I assume he wanted to shoot, because there were bullets in his weapons, wanted to have cause maximum harm and maximum disruption at an event like this. So this is not some sort of side rally somewhere in a small town. This is a major thing. I mean, we've all heard all around the world, those that follow the news, of the White House Correspondents' Dinner. It's famous. I remember Obama going to it. I remember other presidents going to it. In fact, I think it's the first time that Donald Trump has attended since 2011. So that the shooter, who has been taken into custody, wanted to cause maximum disruption and possibly kill a lot of people. I mean, that's what one would assume without luckily he was stopped, but that was the aim, and I hate to say it, make primetime TV and make news around the world. Attention, I'm afraid.
Alison, if we look at this attack, it's the latest in a string of several attacks targeted against President Trump over the last couple of years. He's, of course, a very divisive figure. Do you think that the security team will be looking at this latest attack and questioning how it was able to happen, considering the size of the event, considering the fact that it is the latest in a series of several attacks? Do you think there'll be more scrutiny on the security of these events, and particularly the security on President Trump's team right now?
Absolutely, that's their job. For me, what made it more surprising, if you like, is that this was not an outdoor rally where it's easier for a lone gunman to have access, even from a long distance, because you have lenses, etc., etc. This was an indoor event, so one assumes it's. I mean, particularly as he had all these weapons on him, how on earth did he get past security? Particularly as we're not hearing that he killed everybody to get in. But so how on earth did he get in? I mean, if I had tried to go myself, I wouldn't have been able to get in. So how did somebody with a load of weapons get in? So there will be serious questions. Of course, Trump will, politically be praising the security because nobody was killed and nobody was actually harmed. Oh no, there was somebody harmed. It was one of the Secret Service guys was harmed, but he's apparently been discharged from hospital, released from hospital. But for sure there'll be questions, particularly for me, the idea that he could get into an indoor event, which is far harder than, an outdoor event. You could be, even 100, 200 yards away if you had the right weapon with the right lens. But to get into an indoor event, particularly something with this where security must be so tough, there definitely will be questions. There'll definitely be a review and assessment. There may be people sacked. I don't know. And obviously plans made for the future. This can't happen. It's actually quite shocking. The fact that this would-be assassin could push his way into the room and fire shots. That is actually quite shocking, and I'm sure the U.S. security who look after Donald Trump and these kind of events will be definitely having a hard look and reassessing how they dealt with it and what they can do better in the future.
Mm-hmm. Alison, thanks very much for joining us once again. Always a pleasure to hear analysis. To West Asia, at least 4 Palestinians were killed in Israeli military attacks across the Gaza Strip on Sunday, according to health officials in the enclave. Medics reported that an airstrike near the central village of Al-Mughraqa killed 1 person, while Israeli gunfire and tank shelling near Gaza City claimed 2 more lives. In a separate incident in Khan Yunis in the south, a 40-year-old woman was shot and killed, with the remaining displaced Palestinians seeking shelter in destroyed buildings. The Israeli military, however, said it was not aware of any operation in that area at the time and is reviewing the other reported strikes. The Israeli military also said it has targeted and killed several Hamas terrorists in Gaza since Friday. Violence has continued despite a ceasefire agreed in October 2025, with near-daily strikes reported. Local medics say at least 800 Palestinians have been killed since then, while Israel says 4 of its soldiers have died. Both sides accuse each other of violating the truce. We're now joined by Yossi Kupuasa, an Israeli intelligence and security expert, and he's joining us live from Tel Aviv. Yossi, welcome back. Thanks very much for joining us once again on the broadcast. Now, for what reason do you think that we'll be seeing these latest Israeli military attacks across the Gaza Strip? Of course, there's a ceasefire in place. It's been in place since October. But the Israeli military has said that it was not aware of any operations in the area at that time. If you could speculate, what do you think the possible reasons might be?
Well, regarding the specific case, it's very difficult to know. We have to wait and see what the investigations are going to tell us. If the IDF thinks that there was no operation on that specific place at that specific time, then I don't know, somebody would have caused this death regardless of Israel. It could have been some local problem, local dispute, I don't know. But that said, the Hamas continuously breaches the ceasefire terms. First and foremost, it refuses to disarm. According to the ceasefire agreement, it was supposed to disarm. It refuses to do so. Not only that they do not disarm, they carry out terror attacks repeatedly. And whenever we identify some terrorists from Hamas approaching our forces beyond what's called the yellow line, we take action in order to make sure that they don't have the capability to perform the terror attack they are planning to carry out. So that's repeated itself many times during this ceasefire. This is already 6 months that this goes on like that. And in several cases, they managed to cause us damage. As you mentioned, there were 4 Israeli soldiers that were killed during those terror attacks. And this is a fragile ceasefire. The most important thing that keeps this ceasefire alive is that everybody is focused on other arenas, on Lebanon and on Iran. So that's why nobody puts too much pressure on Hamas to disarm, although the Americans and the International Board of Peace do expect the Hamas to disarm as soon as possible.
Just in regards to this Board of Peace, of course, there's a couple of other negotiating mechanisms in place at the moment in the region. There's negotiations between Iran and the United States. There's negotiations between Lebanon and Israel, and of course the Board of Peace as well, Trump's Board of Peace. Do you think perhaps in the next couple of weeks we could see a resumption in activities of the Board of Peace, given as perhaps the international focus right now is directed to other areas?
Well, they're still active, but they make less headlines because everybody is focused on the other arenas. And there's an ongoing effort. They have their headquarters operational in the southern part of Israel, in Kiryat Gat. And yes, they are alive. I wouldn't say kicking, but they're alive. And they make their opinion very clear that they expect Hamas to disarm in order to allow the reconstruction of Gaza to begin and to make it possible to implement the plans for making the lives of the Gazan population much better and bring prosperity and security for everybody in Gaza. Mm-hmm. Is that going to happen anytime soon? It depends much on, to a large extent, on the readiness of Hamas to disarm, because without the disarmament of Hamas, nothing is going to move forward. And in the meanwhile, the people of Gaza suffer. And also the people of Israel are suffering from the lack of permanent and stable situation in Gaza.
Mm-hmm. Yossi, please don't go far. We're moving to our next development, this time coming out of Turkey. Reportedly, the Foreign Minister, Hakan Fidan, has discussed the latest developments in the Iran-US talks during a phone call with American negotiators. Turkey has been positioning itself as a diplomatic mediator between Washington and Tehran, while also advocating for a ceasefire and criticising US-Israel strikes on Iran as violations of international law. Meanwhile, Oman's Sultan Haytham bin Tariq Al Said met Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi in Muscat to discuss the regional situation and ongoing mediation efforts. According to Oman's state news agency, the talks focused on developments in the region, diplomatic initiatives, and efforts aimed at ending the conflict involving Iran. During the meeting, Araghchi listened to proposals from the Omani leadership on achieving sustainable political solutions and reducing the impact of the crisis on regional populations. The Omani Sultan emphasised the importance of prioritising dialogue and diplomacy to address tensions and strengthen the foundations of peace. Araghchi also expressed appreciation for Oman's role in supporting dialogue efforts and enhancing regional security and stability amid ongoing challenges. Back to you, Yossi. Why do you think we might be seeing these moves from Oman, from Turkey, to put themselves forward as possible alternative negotiators? Are the talks in Pakistan not going so well that, in fact, other third parties are putting themselves forward as alternatives?
I'm not sure that they are looking at themselves as alternatives. I think they want to support the effort led by Pakistan in order to bring about lasting ceasefire and some solution to the crisis. And the reasons are very clear from the point of view of both Oman and Turkey. The resumption of the war is something that they don't want to see happening, because this might lead to the fall of the Iranian regime, and this is something they are concerned about, and especially about its replacement with pro-Western regime. And as long as they keep Iran weak and under pressure, but stable, and that is the outcome they would like to see best, because this means that, especially from the Turkish point of view, means that Turkey is going to gain more standing in the region and the expense of Iran. And that's what they were looking for, and they are in favor of bringing an end to the hostilities and keeping Iran weak. That's what they want to see happening, and they are ready to help the Pakistanis in their efforts to reach the same result.
Mm-hmm. So in your analysis, Yossi, do you think that perhaps these emphasis from the Iranians that they're appreciating the role from these countries is perhaps more a role of support rather than are putting themselves forward as an alternative. Do you think that perhaps if we do see this support from Turkey, from Oman, that has been reported, do you think that we could see some more rounds of negotiations take place in Islamabad? Of course, the Iranians have declined to negotiate directly with the Americans, and the Americans also have left Islamabad as well. Do you think we could see perhaps a third round of negotiations, given how they've previously gone, but also taking into account these indications of support from Oman and also from Turkey?
Yes, I think it's possible. Maybe not in the immediate future, but down the road, it's possible. The main tool that the Americans are using now in order to convince the Iranians to come back to the negotiation table is the blockade. And as the blockade goes on, the pressure on the Iranian regime grows, and they might reach the conclusion that they need to do something and resume the negotiations and present some more flexible position that would convince the Americans to discuss it seriously. They didn't do that in the beginning of the visit of Arakchi in Pakistan this weekend, but maybe they're going to, according to the Americans, after the first proposal they made, they already changed it to a better one, which is not satisfactory yet, but it's better than the original one. So it seems that there is some movement in the Iranian position. One of the problems that we are all experiencing is that it's very difficult to know who's calling the shots in Iran after all kinds of rumors about Kalibaf giving up the helm of leading the negotiations. It's a difficult situation because the leadership of Iran is not the usual leadership they used to rely upon, and they have to take very difficult decisions. And anybody in Iran for now to show flexibility and readiness to compromise is risking his life with the threats coming out from the Revolutionary Guards. So it's going to be difficult to come up with a more forthcoming position that is going to be satisfactory for the Americans, and that's why we need more pressure. And that's exactly what the Americans are doing. They put the pressure both by maintaining the blockade and by threatening to move to farther and harsher moves with the with the military capabilities they gather in the area, and with the clear threat to hit the power plants and so on and so forth. They hope that this was going to convince the Iranians to come up with some acceptable position, at least acceptable opening position. And we shall wait and see. But I think that if the pressure will continue, we shall eventually see a more forthcoming position from the Iranians.
Mm-hmm. Yossi, thanks very much for joining us once again and for sharing your analysis on the broadcast. Now, panic in India at New Delhi airport after a Swiss International Airlines flight aborted takeoff following an engine scare. The aircraft was preparing for departure when crew detected a technical issue, forcing an immediate halt on the runway. Passengers were evacuated using emergency procedures with slides deployed as a precaution. Visuals show travellers rushing out of the aircraft amid confusion and fear. At least 6 people have been reported injured during the evacuation, mostly suffering minor injuries such as bruises and anxiety-related symptoms. All were given prompt medical attention. According to reports, the authorities at Indira Gandhi International Airport acted swiftly, with emergency services reaching the site within minutes to secure the area and assist passengers. Meanwhile, Swiss International Airlines has launched an investigation into the incident, saying passenger safety remains its top priority. The aircraft has been grounded for technical checks. And that's all we've got time for. Please keep watching NewsX World for more news updates coming to you from around the world.